Welcome back to Dave Twang. I'm Dave. Mike in a good position there? Okay. The level looked a little low. Day 7 of the challenge, okay? We're going to work with this same tune that we used for day 6. We've had a lot of feedback about it. I've talked to several people about it. It's just a good kind of basic, progression to practice and showcase some of the skills that you've been working on throughout this challenge. Okay, so our main kind of melodic game plan here is E minor pentatonic, right? So let's just get warmed up for a second on that. And then what we're going to do today is 2 things. The first one is we're going to look at a little bit of 7-note scale action that can be, put inside that pentatonic frame, and have some fun with that and just keep it simple. Just another thing that you can add to your exploration, process with this, using the same backing track, okay? And this will all be in the folder for day 7. And then the second thing is how to decide which sevenths and how to add a seventh to your triad arpeggios. Okay, so the train just went by. I don't know if you heard it. I have like a noise gate set on it now because we're pretty far from the tracks, but like they blow the horn in this town. It's not a no horn town or whatever. It's a really small town, so when it hits the city limits out there, man, it's like, if you're outside, it'll really blow you away. Anyway, if you hear that from time to time, we'll just, play a blues lick to go with it or something. So even if we're just playing triads for a progression like this song, okay, and real quick, what do I mean by that? That I'm playing 6 strings or 5 strings on each one of those bar chords, but there's only 3 notes included in those chord forms, right? And some of the notes are duplicated. There's like 2 or 3 roots in there, right? And, a couple of thirds and a couple of fifths. There's no other tones added above the root, third, and fifth, called extensions, right? So the important thing about that, because I'm going to use some material that I already produced in the second half of this, and I don't know if I mentioned it or not, you don't have to change the chords you're playing with the band or on your looper or whatever. You can mess around with that, make some of them into 7th chords, but you don't have to use the 7th arpeggios for the soloing part. It's kind of a cool thing to observe, right? It's like, oh, I'm playing these other notes that aren't in the chords that I'm playing, but because they're the proper extensions in the key and so forth, it works. Don't worry, I'm going to map the process out for you very succinctly. And if some of what I just said doesn't, add up with your current definitions and things, don't worry about that. Just keep going with all of this stuff, and little by little you'll pick up, later on you'll see another video somewhere else and you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that's what that was about or something. Just keep working through. Some of it doesn't stick, don't worry about it. So that's the second half. Now the first half here, let's get warmed up on E minor pentatonic. We're not gonna have to worry about a 7-note scale yet, right? We just got our minor pentatonic, whatever that is for you. I'll give you a little bit of space, but also just play over me. Right now it's just like we got 2 people soloing, right, on this. Don't worry about copying it. Just play something that sort of converses with that. warmed up. A little bit longer phrase, right? Do a little bending. All right, man, you could spend all day just using that minor pentatonic and have a real good day, right? So check out some of these other ideas, but don't run away from that. That's a pretty good system and a comprehensive way to play over this track, okay? Okay. So now, along with that pentatonic, which sounds pretty sweet, what if we wanted to put some other notes? I'm hearing some other stuff that my ear, it's cool, but like there's some other notes that I want to kind of put in there in between some of those pentatonic notes. Okay, so maybe like a 7-note scale. So this is often what happens when we think like, all right, now this is where we get into kind of like considering what key the song is in and so forth. And, what could we do? What scale can we apply to this that's like, a 7-note scale, right? It just so happens that minor pentatonic skips over certain things where there might be conflicts, and just that's kind of the cool sort of the magic about it, right? It fits into a lot of things easily. So this is where this topic could break off into a bunch of other topics. So we want to. I'm presenting this in a way that hopefully is letting you all have musical experiences, and then looking at some analysis, not the other way around. I'm not going to sit here and talk about keys and things and then, start playing. So we're just going to play. We're just going to, you take my word for it, E natural minor is a pretty good place to start over this, okay? So, and you'll see it fits into this kind of framework of that minor pentatonic. All right, so there's a diagram for it. And like we've been doing, there's 2 of them. There's one where it says the note name is there. And then there's another one where it's just, that I'll put up in a second, it just labels it as intervals. I'm just doing that so that you always are aware that we're really talking about intervals, right? Because if we were to move this whole song to B minor, you'd be dealing with the same intervals. You wouldn't necessarily you don't have to memorize 12 different, buckets of stuff, of notes for every starting point in the music system, right? And guitar lends itself to this process very well because we talked about this before. It's repetitive. You can just kind of move it down to the other key or something. So, pentatonic, natural minor, which fits in there pretty much. Now, one thing I think I did it early, just a minute ago too, that I probably shouldn't have, is I should start on the root. Just a habit. I just reached up there and started on that, higher note that's in that position because we're so used to that. It's just, we're going to include that, right? But, to be a little more precise, from E to E. On a side note, if I do start it on the G but play those same notes, the same sequence, from G to G. That's a major scale. That's the do, re, mi scale. Also happens that we're not going to go off on this right now, but that those are called relative major and minor. E minor and G. Okay? Something to back burner or something that you already know. So let's put this track on and let's audition this E natural minor business and see what happens. We'll wait for the top of it here. One more time. Okay, so what's going on here? When we made that yuck face, right? Something wasn't good. Something happened and things lined up and they weren't lined up. They didn't line up. Right? There was a break in the continuum right there for a second. Here's what happened. On all of the chords that in this progression, there's 4 of them. 3 out of the 4 are made of the same stuff that are notes that are included in this scale, right? So they're diatonically related to that E minor. We could say the key is E minor. This one, however, has a note in it that is not included in. All right. So what do? Change our chord to A minor, and that solves the problem. Well, that, my opinion, that takes a whole lot of coolness out of this song. Right. So we don't do that. But what we do is we adjust when we get to that chord. Okay. And it's as simple as this in this case. But sometimes this stuff can really throw you off because you're playing along and something like that, a real conflict like that happens, and you just say like, oh, this isn't the right scale. Like, back to square one. No, because the rest of the time it's working, right? So this is a important little lesson. Sometimes you just have to make an adjustment at certain parts of the tune. Okay, so let's get this track back on here, and I'll really try to, slow this down and, repeat some lines and things where you can really hear that adjustment. Everything else. There, I'm just changing it right to it. Okay, so I'm starting to get a little warmed up now and I'm having fun. So I don't mean to do that on your time. I could just go on, you start sounding good, it starts feeling good. It's like, I was like, oh, forget that I'm making a video right now. I just want to start jamming, right? So, let's 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 let that be it for today, right? The notes, by the way, in the E natural minor, there's a C natural. But when we get to that A, right, we need a major third for that A because it's a major triad. So we just move that up 1 degree for that chord. The rest of it, we just go back to the same minor scale. E minor, E natural minor. Happens to be the same notes as G major. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that. Start sorting this out. Not that much to think about. Make the adjustment. Let your ear soak in that. And that's a cool part of this, right? When you add that in with your pentatonic stuff, it starts to have a little bit of a more playing through type of feel, and it really makes that A shine. Okay, so now we'll move on to the sorting out those, adding those sevenths to the triads. All right, now a little bit of work on this, extending these triads up to include a seventh. And this is going to rely more on your working than mine. Okay. It wouldn't do you any good for me to work harder on this than you. All right. So I'm just going to set you up. You're going to have to do some exploration, but it'll really pay off. You're going to have to trust your ear. So we're just going to go chord by chord. E minor. Okay, bunch of E minors. Notice every time I'm starting on the root. Okay. All right. If you're not familiar with those, then you've got work to do right there. Just you've got a minor triad is a root to a flat third, and then the next note is a perfect fifth from the root. Okay, that's all you need to know about a minor triad. It doesn't matter if it fits into the other parts of the matrix and all of that. Just that's it. That's the definition of it. And for every one of these roots, you can use either a major triad or a minor one. That happens to be the only minor one. Then when it goes to the A, it's a major. So it's root, major third, and the fifth is a perfect fifth again. Same thing for the C and the D. Okay. There's some phrasing just within that, right? Because if I do just one for the C and the D, but then I kind of expand it and do a couple of octaves for the E, in a really rote sort of mechanical way, that's like a routine, right? It just because it's just dictated by the structure of the timing of the progression itself, right? Don't overthink it, right? It's all kind of already right there for you. So it's a little bit different than the blues licks and stuff in terms of phrasing, but the two things aren't necessarily going to be rehearsed at the same time. This is kind of the second topic of the day. So we want to add a seventh to these. Now, we could do this, the pen and paper way. We could say, well, okay, we just had a minor triad as a root, flat third, and a perfect fifth. And a minor 7 chord, we were going to add a flat 7 to that. You can write that down, right? You've got a piece of paper like you ought to be frank, in front of you. You root, flat third, fifth, flat seven. Okay, the minor seven chord. So D is the flat seven for E. Remember, the flat seven refers to the distance from the root if we're talking intervals. That's it. Yep. Next chord, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to have all this stuff under your fingers right this moment. I don't mean to. It's not about making it sound like this should be easy for you, and just really going to start emphasizing and reminding everybody about the not overthinking on this stuff. Okay, because there's so many angles now going on online with how to perceive this stuff. It's actually getting people are just getting absolutely confused by the amount of elaborate presentations about this stuff. That's all there is to a minor seven arpeggio. Okay, A. There's our triad, major triad. Here's the ear part. You put that backing track on. I'm going to try. We have two options for the minor. You go ahead and we already wrote it down. Flat seven every time. There are exceptions, but not in this style of music. So let's put this on, and we're going to audition a major seven for the A and a flat seven for the A. So I'll play an E minor seven. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's try the other one. That was the major seven. Being rewarded instantly, right? That felt good after that first tragic use of the major seven. Okay, so the interval again is from the root, the distance from the root to the note that we're talking about, right? So in a major seven, it's it's 1 degree down. You can think of it this way if you like, from the next octave. That's the flat seven. Clearly, if we're writing down this progression now and making it a progression of seventh chords, our first two need to be E minor seven and then A seven, not a major seven. Okay? Same business for the C and the D. Now, we got to act quick on these because they go by quicker. Keep it real, let's try the other one. That was the major seven. That almost sounded like that trombone thing on Price is Right or whatever. That's no good, okay? You're done. You're done. Write it down if you want. C7 for that one. Right? Or I'm sorry, C major seven. Right? I got confused there. We want the major seven. Okay. I'm not going to edit that out because, it's not going to throw you off, right? It can't, because you're using your ear, not what I say or the diagram says or whatever, right? So now we're checking out the D, the last one. Sometimes it's not as awful. Hear how this one, you've got to really check it out with your ear. Didn't sound awful with the major 7, right? But let's try it like off to the side. We're gonna want that one to be dominant, a flat 7. So now we're writing down our progression as 7th chords: E minor 7, A7, C major 7, D7. Okay, and that's it. Now when I play that without the backing track, you hear more of the structure of the song itself, even though we're not playing chords, with the notes in harmony, right? Okay, that's all there is to that part today. And you can do that on just about any tune, right? Sometimes there's chords that are altered, or there's something that's more than just that simplified version of extending the triads like we just did. The point here today, sorry, the dog is for some reason is trying to gain entrance to the door, and she's not being very nice about it. Your ear will know, right? Get in the habit of just checking this out. And you know what? Calling some of you all out. Some of you, we've been talking. Quit hiding from the 7s. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it once you just, remember, that it's just like the triads. It's not that complicated. And some of you are saying, well, we should know that, because now I can see that this is like 4, 5, 6 chord in the key of G or E minor, but that one doesn't conform to that diatonic key analysis, does it? Right? So if anybody has anything to say about that, please put it in the comments and let us know what you're thinking about that. But what we did is we went around and snuck up on it the other way by listening, right? By making it musical. And then you can go back and kind of compare it to the theoretical definitions or basis for it. But it's not validated by the theory. It's validated by the sound. And it should come to you pretty clearly once you get used to trusting that for yourself. All right. Well, this one came out a little bit longer than I thought today. Appreciate all of you. Let me know how it's going for you, okay? I'll see you next time.